So for this video, I will be teaching you how to make a bell sleeve. So things you're going to need are scissors. I'm going to use a Sharpie for the demonstration, but it's better to use a pencil so that you can erase your mistakes. Pattern paper. I've already cut out my piece that we're going to need. And this is the roll that I have. If you can't afford official pattern paper, then you can just buy tissue paper from the dollar store. I did that for a long time. And you're also going to need these rulers. I mean, you don't need all of them, but it helps to have them. And some tape. And we're ready to get started. So first things first is you're going to use a general pattern. I've explained this in other videos. You can go to the store like Joann's or any store that sells patterns and get a general pattern. I'll put it somewhere on my page for you to find it, so that you can go to the store and buy it. I think it's a dress pattern, and then I cut out the pieces and I laminated them. So this is just the general pattern for anything you want to make. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to trace it. So, and it kind of depends on how big you want your bell sleeve. I'm going to make my bell sleeve about like the middle of the top of my arm. So probably about right here is where I want mine. But you can make it all the way down to your wrist. You can make it here, wherever you want, you can make it. So it's going to be in the first step of tracing. And you're going to want to kind of hold your paper down while you trace. And go ahead and trace your size. All right, perfect. You're gonna take out your pattern here because you don't need it anymore. Put it to the side. And I'm just gonna go ahead and, oh wait, well, so actually the first step for this is you're gonna fold it in half first. And I mean, I'm gonna cut it out first. All right, so now you're gonna want to fold it in half. You're welcome to try and just measure the slashes you're gonna make. I don't know why it's not completely lining up, but it'll be okay. So you're gonna do about, I mean, you want to make it equal. So for mine, I'm just going to do 2-inch slashes. So for the middle, I'm going to make a mark at 1 inch. So when I unfold it, it's 2 inches. And for this, you don't want to cut up here. So if it helps, you can just make a line. Just make the line stop make the line stop just before you hit the edge so you don't forget. Because you don't want to add fullness to both sides of this pattern. You just want to add fullness to the bottom so that it is shaped like a bell. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut. Once again, do not cut all the way to the edge. If you do accidentally cut all the way to the edge, then just go ahead and and tape it down. And you don't have to do this in half. In my last video, I did it flat. I just measured all of the slashes, but you can do it either way. This is just making sure that they're all perfectly even, but whatever you're comfortable with will be just fine. And then since I fold it in half, which is not really my preference, but I'm just gonna show you what folding it in half looks like, but you don't want to accidentally cut the other side if they're not lined up perfectly. All right, so this is kind of what your bell sleeve will look like. So if you want to, after we add our inserts, so we're going to be adding pieces of paper in between to make it even. If that bothers you to see all these lines, sometimes it bothers me too, then you can just go ahead and trace it onto another piece of paper and then cut it out and then label it bell sleeve, and then you know it's already slashed and cut. I'm gonna cut another piece of paper. This one doesn't have to be perfectly sliced because it's just for in between, and we're gonna measure on the actual pattern. So I'm gonna go about where I think halfway is. I'm not exactly sure. And then I'm gonna make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then it kind of depends on how much fullness you want in this sleeve. So is how much you're gonna measure. So I'm not measuring these pieces. I'll be measuring the actual pattern. But you can have it however big you want. So if you want just a little flare, then maybe have them like 1/2 inch apart. If you want a bigger flare, I mean, you can go as big as you want and it'll just make the bell sleeve bigger. I'm actually gonna flip it on the other side so that the papers don't curl up so bad. And in this process, if you accidentally tear one of the pieces, just go ahead and tape it back on. You don't have to start over. I've done that plenty of times. All right. And if you have one of these grids, it's amazing. You don't have to do as much measuring with a ruler. So I'm just gonna do 1 inch flares. All right. So I'm just going to do that and get my tape. And actually, I like to cut them in half just to save on some tape. All right. And it doesn't really matter where you tape it, just tape it so that it is measured. All right, so this is what it should look like after you've taped in all of the pieces. And what you're gonna do next is you're just going to correct the lines. And that one's a little bit under. If you want, you can add just, you know, a little piece of paper. But sometimes I just correct it on my fabric. But if you want the full pattern, then go ahead and just tape it like so. And for bell patterns, there's usually so much paper that I just end up tracing this onto another piece of paper so that it's just one flat, nice looking piece. But you can totally just keep this and use this as your main pattern. It's whatever you feel like using. All right. And then you just want to kind of trace and see how the papers kind of curl underneath. So it probably is better to just trace it onto another piece of paper. You know, just shave all of these pieces off. This one could use spot tape. All right, so this is what a bell sleeve should look like. And you can go ahead and label it. I like to label mine quickly after making it so I don't forget. And there you have it. There's your bell sleeve.